train.
This is a conversion kit. One of the really cool things that Americans have always done is we've always gotten our money's worth out of products. And we've always figured out a way to do a lot of different things with our products. This is a Ford Model T truck. Now, you guys have probably heard of a Model T before, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of a Model A?
No.
You never heard of a Ford Model A? Which do you think came first? Huh? T came first, right? Very good. A little confusing, because what happened was when Mr. Ford started building cars, and everybody knows Henry Ford didn't invent the car, right? No. Mr. Ford invented a way to make the cars so everybody could afford them. That was his claim to fame. So when he started making them, he started out with Model A, B, C, and on. And the Model T in that series was the first really successful one. And he sold thousands of them. Well, then he ran out of letters. So he started over again. Model A, Model B. And the Model A that came after this one was actually one of the most successful automobiles ever produced of all time. But this Model T, you could buy a kit and make it into a snowmobile. And
I'd buy that.
it's pretty cool. Well, I tell you, the people who really bought this, because, I mean, you could probably buy this kit and this car back when it was new for just a few $100s, but in today's money, that would be like probably $60,000, $70,000 that it would cost you to buy this thing, because of the way the money has gone. So what they did, they sold these kits, and the people who bought most of these things were doctors, because you didn't dial 911 in those days. You sent Auntie Elizabeth up to the farm to go another 10 miles to find the doctor, and hopefully they would come see you. And they would crawl into one of these things, and they would come to where you were at if you were sick.
That's not good.
No, well, it took a little longer to get help in those days. Okay, we've got a lot of improvements. The other people who used a lot of these things were grocers, because they delivered groceries a lot in those days, and they'd be able to go through all kinds of weather in these things. And when the weather turned good again and the roads were ready to use, they would take this axle off and the chain off, they would take the skis off, put the wheels back on, and drive it on the road.
Is this operational?
Would be if we put gas and oil in it.
I'm making fun of Alex.
Okay. Behind you is this massive locomotive that this thing was actually brought in on a huge truck and dropped down here on a crane on these tracks, and then we built the building around it. So there's no other way to get it in here. But this is very much not dissimilar to what they currently use as far as locomotives. This thing can just tow thousands and thousands of tons of material as far as moving stuff from one place to another. It's a lot more than any truck or car could. Okay? And unfortunately, they don't let us have people crawl up in there because it's, again, a safety thing, and it's not really designed for that. So perhaps one day we'll have a platform made so you can do that. But not there yet.
That's tall.
So we're going to go back down this way.
Oh,
Stop
shut
at that
up.
first fire engine on your left.
Look at the pistons. Piston, eh? Maybe it's from Detroit.
Yeah, it's a pretty massive piston, isn't it?
Oh my god, I love this.
You don't want to drop that on your toe. Those are pretty cool. Yep, they are pretty cool. Now check out this really old fire truck. They started using these fire trucks all the way back in the 1700s, this type of fire truck. And the last one that I know of was used. Have you guys ever heard of the big fires that Maine had back in 1947? A whole bunch of the states would burn. There was a town down, town of Turner, Maine, still had one of these things, using it to fight that fire. Very durable piece of machinery, very simple piece of machinery.
That bucket's a little.
Well, it is a bit weird. You know why it's round on the bottom, Glenn? There's two reasons. One, they didn't want you to sit it down when you're working a fire. They want you to keep moving. And two, it holds more water that way. So that, because obviously, as you're passing buckets from one person to another, someone's going to spill. So that gave you more extra to reserve. So, what you'd have to do, yes, sir.
Is that is that thing the potato, the fire truck? Because that's the word potato a lot.
Yep, well, there's a lot of equipment. Potatoes a big crop here in Maine. They grow a lot of them, and you see a lot of our farm equipment has to do with potato growing.
Yeah.
And that truck was used on a potato farm.
Oh.
But this particular fire truck, the way it worked, it didn't have hoses to put water into it. You see this little tank here, this black tank?
Yeah.
You'd have to have a bunch of folks lined up with buckets, and they'd have to go to a stream or well, and they'd all pass buckets back and forth to fill that tank up, while like 4 or 3 guys on either side would do this up and down as hard and fast as they could. And that operates the pump manually, and you see that little thing that comes off the brass tank at the front? There's like a little nozzle there. You would hook a hose onto that to squirt the water. This type of fire engine, if you had 4 guys pumping it really hard, can shoot water from about here to as far as the end of the parking lot out there. It's pretty impressive. The problem is keeping enough water in it to do that, because it would run out of water really easily.
What trophies? What is that trophy for?
That was one of the fireman's muster. I assume it's for this thing. I actually have never even looked closely at that. Yeah, this thing won an award for being one of the coolest fire trucks at some fireman's muster that they had.
Well, it deserved it.
Yes, it did. All right, on down to the next one and check out this John Deere
That's a
H-Series
ladder
tractor.
to it? Maximum fire truck. Oh, it's okay. Wow.
This thing looks like it just rolled out of the factory. It was just redone. It's a beautiful tractor. And it does have a weird seat. That's how they all used to look. They're not designed for comfort. These guys are out there to work. And people in those days really weren't as concerned with comfort. So they'd sit on those metal seats for hours. But it was so much better than what they had to do before tractors. You know what they did before tractors?
Horse.
They'd stand behind a plow and they
Yeah,
would
it was
walk
a
for hours following the horse or mule or whatever as he plowed.
Kind of like the husky thing you do. You stand on the thing while
Yeah,
they
but
race.
this one you just walked behind him.
And like for richer
And you hope that the mule or the horse cooperated. And, you know, you would try to get it to do what you want. There were certain commands they'd use for the animal to try to get them to do what they want.
Like an old yeller.
Then they came up with the big, huge steam tractors I told you about. They were
Is
massive
that the model?
machines.
With all the stuff on it?
That one up there is designed to make roads smoother. They would pull it with a horse, and it would make, it's called a road grader. Nowadays, they use that almost exact same type of device. It's diesel powered, but it doesn't look a lot different from that, except it's bigger.
Is there a crane holding that thing?
No,
Well, sort of like that.
it's not holding. It's just some kind of block and tackle device we've got up there that shows how they used to unload cargo and stuff.
Oh.
Okay. So on down to the next
Wow.
couple of things.
There's another one.
Okay. Oh, dear.
Why is that? Well, I tell you what, the guy that drove this in here, I got to meet him not long ago. He's one of our volunteers. He drove this tractor into this museum, and he was so excited. He's in his 80s now, and he was your age when he used to use one of these on his parents' farm. This exact same model tractor. This is 1930s model John Deere, and we recorded the sound of it as he drove it in. So go ahead and push that button there, and you can hear the really unique sound of this engine.
I think this is brown.
That tractor would just run all day long like that.
Excuse me. Hey, Ma.
What's that? No, this is what they look like. Because they're going across dirt and gravel. They're not really going on paved roads. And these things help give a little bit of traction. You know, these would sink up into it, and then these would catch a bit more traction. You'll notice on that red one there, we've got those kind of spikes, and on this one up here, they've got those spikes to give it extra traction. Now, you guys know one of the most dangerous things about a tractor, even modern tractors, it's really not that big of a difference. The danger is that, well, not just getting run over. They're extremely powerful. And what can happen is if you hook to something that gets caught that you're trying to pull, these wheels are still going to turn. And the front of these things is relatively light, and it'll just pull it up like that, and it will keep going. If you don't like release the clutch, it'll just pull over and drop it right on top of it. And it will squish you much like a bug.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to be very careful when operating a tractor. But they are incredibly useful devices. And you know, these are something you don't think about. When you go to the grocery store, one of the reasons that it's relatively easy for us here in America to afford food inexpensively, comparatively, is because of tractors. Because they save so much labor, they can produce this stuff. And these are one of the great problems they solved, was by coming up with tractors. Coming right on down this way, a couple of really cool things. Now, I know it seems like we're skipping a lot, but I've only got you for 45 minutes, so I want to show you what I think is some of the coolest stuff. And like I said, come back to this place with your grandparents who use some of this stuff so they can give you a really detailed explanation of some of it.
Hey, look, it's a Ford car.
Now, you remember when I told you over back by the snowmobile, the Model T truck that turns into a snowmobile? This is a Model T truck that you can make into a tractor. Sears and Roebuck Company, the same company that you can go to today, sold a kit you could order through the mail, and they would ship it to you, that you could take the back body off of your Model T and put this wheel kit on, and use it for a tractor. And a lot of farmers did that because it was cheaper than buying a truck and a tractor. And they would just buy the kit. It was a lot more work because then they'd have to, at the end of whenever they're through using it, they'd have to take the tractor wheels off, put the regular tires back on, put the body back on, and go to town for their grocery shopping or whatever they want to do. So it was quite a bit more work, but it saved them a lot of money, and it was a very useful product. Now on this other side is one of our coolest hook and ladder trucks. Came from Augusta.
$99.
All of these fire trucks that we have in here were used in Maine. In fact, just about everything in here has a Maine connection of some sort or another. And the thing that worries me about this fire truck was the driver had to be really, really dense. Because look up there by the steering wheel and tell me what would be concerning you about the driver of this truck. Now, what would concern you about the driver?
You have to have long legs.
You would hope he would know that, right? The guy's going to drive you to the fire. I'm hoping he knows which way is left and right, but apparently he didn't because they had to write it up there for him. Okay? So I saw that. The other thing that's unique about this thing is it's built in a British fashion. You notice that the steering wheel is on the opposite side of what it is on most American vehicles. Now, why they did on this particular one, I don't know.
Other than mail
But and there's Domino's, our Dalmatian. Now you know why they're the fire dogs. And one of the really cool pieces of equipment I want to show you over here that took a whole lot of gumption and guts to use is called a pump in. See that thing? Well, what you would do, what these guys would do is they would take this thing and they'd show up in a burning building and there's somebody on the